17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead! The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to our random video on our channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about Michael Jordan. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite athletes of all sports because he has the character of a champion. He is a champion, 6 NBA titles, and not only that, he's a real leader. So the way I look at Michael Jordan as an all-time great athlete, I find it funny, or actually, you know what? I shouldn't even say I find it funny because sometimes it's just really annoying when people start comparing the athletes they see today to Michael Jordan. A good example of this is when people compare LeBron James to Jordan. And I would say this to be fair. Since Michael Jordan, the only person that I could compare to him that even got close to comparison to Michael Jordan was Kobe Bryant. But that's because Kobe emulated almost every move, his attitude towards the game. It was really as close to Jordan as you can get. Because with Michael Jordan, he had the ambition, he had the attitude, he had the ability to make his teammates better. He was a leader. Now, I'll say this about Kobe. The whole reason why they had issues in Los Angeles with Shaquille O'Neal is because of Kobe's attitude, which didn't really coincide with that team staying together. So that's something that Michael Jordan did not do. Because the way Michael Jordan is, he had the respect of the owners, the general manager, and of course his coach. And that was Phil Jackson. So the reason why I'm saying this is because if you compare anyone else these days, it's really tough to even say that someone can be in the same conversation as Michael Jordan. And I would actually go beyond that and say that you cannot have these other athletes that you're trying to compare to him in the same conversation because there's only one Michael Jordan. Now, I am going to talk about LeBron James, and before I start talking about LeBron, I just want to say it's nothing against him as a person because I hear great things about LeBron James. He seems like a really great person. I'm talking about the LeBron James in the NBA. The LeBron James in the NBA started with one team, and that was the Cavaliers. Then he goes to Miami with one ambition, and that was to win championships. And then he goes back to Cleveland saying that he's going to help his team. The whole idea of it, and knowing about LeBron James' brand, it seems like he was trying to build his own career by establishing himself with those championships to validate his own career. And some people might say that's absolutely crazy because a lot of people liked LeBron James before all that. But many of you know, when you look at sports in itself, championships is what people remember these athletes for. If you talk about some of these athletes who've never won a championship, the conversation is much different. And you see some of these guys in the NBA, no offense to them, but even Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, even Mark Jackson, these guys have never won a championship. But they're very opinionated about what they see out there. And they like to say a lot of different things about the various teams out there. I know at one point, Reggie Miller started saying things about Steph Curry, then Steph Curry and the Warriors win that championship, and then he starts saying nice things about Steph. You know, the idea of someone who never won a championship and then criticizing someone who is a phenomenal perimeter shooter, being coached by someone who was one of your opponents while in the NBA, which was Steve Kerr when he was with the Bulls, and the Bulls were part of the reason why guys like Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, and even Mark Jackson never won a championship. It was very tough then to compete with the Chicago Bulls. You're talking about a team that won 6 championships. That's a lot of championships for one team. And they three-peated 2 separate times. But this is the thing about the NBA and the conversation about the all-time greats. You guys like to rewrite history. And you like to bring up these sideshow stories about Michael Jordan and the team and who didn't get along with each other. It's all ridiculous nonsense. Nobody cares. You're talking about Dennis Rodman. He didn't talk to Pippen and he didn't talk to Jordan. Again, nobody cares. They were winning championships. And by the way, Dennis Rodman wasn't there for all the championships. I think Dennis Rodman is a tremendous athlete. There's no question about that. His ability to rebound, play defense, he was amazing. Hall of Famer. That is who Dennis Rodman is. All-time great. As much as there was antics and all sorts of stuff on the side with Dennis Rodman, because he was trying to build his own career as well, and he knew how to get into the media, he also knew how to be a teammate. And he knew how to help his team, especially in those big games when you saw Dennis Rodman competing like the best in the league. You could go back to that series against the Jazz, and the way Rodman was going up against even a Karl Malone. And everyone knew about Stockton and Malone. 2 more athletes you can talk about who did not win a championship because of Michael Jordan and the Bulls. And yes, you did have players like Rodman and Pippen. And even at different times with the perimeter shooting, it was Paxson, then you had Steve Kerr. You know, everyone had a responsibility with Chicago Bulls. It was that kind of team. But the leader was Michael Jordan. And when you talk about Michael Jordan, even in today's game, you start comparing LeBron James to Jordan. They are 2 different athletes. First of all, the training these days is why we have someone like LeBron James, who is an incredible athlete, but he has a much different build than a Michael Jordan for obvious reasons. And that's because as we advance as people, the training gets better, and we see that in our sports. The sports are faster, the athletes are stronger, the training is even better. That's what happens. That's called advancement in sports. So when we talk about Michael Jordan, you can't put him side to side against LeBron James and say, well, LeBron James is bigger. You know, one thing I do notice, with LeBron James' size and his build, he is not as coordinated as Michael Jordan. Watch the dribbling skills of Michael Jordan. They are far better than LeBron James. But then if you look at Steph Curry and start comparing Steph Curry to some of the perimeter shooters that we became familiar with, including Reggie Miller, and saying how fantastic he was, Steph Curry is better than Reggie Miller as a perimeter shooter. You can also tell by Steph Curry's dribbling skills that he's better than Reggie Miller. It's the training. It's the advancement of these athletes compared to previous generations. But we can still compare the athletes on what makes them an all-time great or not. Now, I'll say that LeBron James is a great athlete. He's a great NBA baller. But he is not Michael Jordan. And I think one mistake that he made was trying to become Michael Jordan or try to beat Jordan's legacy. And I think that was an issue. And nowadays, he tries to talk about it in a way where he owns up to it. But the reason why he's doing that is because people are actually acknowledging LeBron these days for the championships he's won. Although I have to say this also about LeBron. I'm trying to be fair about this, but your finals record, 3 for 7, meaning 3 times you lost, 7 times you were in the NBA Finals, that's not an impressive record. Is it all your fault? No, but it is circumstance. By the way that you went about winning championships. You started with your hometown team, that was the Cleveland Cavaliers again, then you go to Miami, and then you go back. And when you do things like that, then we're looking at your career as a whole. And Michael Jordan didn't do that. And when some people start bringing up the Washington Wizards, you can't bring that stuff up when you're talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a Chicago Bull. And he went to the Wizards before he retired, and it wasn't for championships. So those are the facts about Michael Jordan. Then some people out there like to argue these points and say, well, Michael Jordan had all the help out there. A lot of help out there. First of all, if you look at the Cavaliers, although recently they've been losing some games, they are the team in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, you have the Chicago Bulls and you've had some other teams that try to compete. Even people are talking about how the Knicks are trying to compete. But really, you have the Chicago Bulls. They're an interesting team. But everyone knows it's about the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference. And there's a reason for that. It has to do with their management, the way they were able to get players on the team, and get LeBron back. And if you even want to compare the Chicago Bulls to previous teams before them, there's a reason why they call the Lakers Showtime. You had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, and James Worthy. That was a great team. So if you compare that to the Bulls, yeah, the Bulls had Jordan and Pippen, But then you have the supporting cast. They were made better because they have real leadership, which was Jordan and Pippen. But everyone knew the leader of the Bulls was Michael Jordan. That was his team. I mean, if you talk about the Bulls, who are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about Wellington or even Kukoc? I mean, be real about it. Look at the rosters for the Bulls back then and ask yourself, even with the Horace Grant, who did the Bulls have that was really leading that team? The argument about Pippen to me was a fantastic athlete. There's no question about it. He was very important to the Bulls. But Michael Jordan is a leader. And it didn't mean that he had to get along with all the teammates. That does not make you a leader. What makes you a leader is that your teammates respect you. And they're looking at you as a leader. I can't say that all the time about LeBron. Although things worked out for them last season. And that was winning the championship versus the Warriors in the finals. Although that series was awfully interesting when LeBron James and also Tyronn Lue complained to the media and they started saying things about Draymond Green, and out of nowhere Draymond gets suspended. That was a big suspension in a series that really shifted because then there was injuries for the Warriors. I'm not making excuses for them, but it happened. I never saw Michael Jordan doing that. Michael Jordan wasn't the type of athlete that wanted to go to the media for any help. The only person that was going to help Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan and his team. Meaning, he was responsible for himself. If they won, they won. If they lost, they lost. It was on him and his team. That was it. Had nothing to do with the media. Had nothing to do with the NBA or complain to the NBA. And by the way, the game was a lot tougher physically back in the day. The rules were a lot different, allowing players to foul and all sorts of stuff. And you better believe, when Michael Jordan was driving to the net, there were some pretty hard fouls on him. And this is the reason why you had Dennis Rodman on the team, because he was part of those Piston teams where they were really aggressive. That's what it was about back then. Nowadays, you see a more offensive game, and you see a different kind of defense. I mean, really, you just saw Klay Thompson the other day score, 60 points? And Steve Kerr could have even still put him into the game, but decided not to. And that was out of respect for the Pacers. So this is a situation in the NBA. We have all-time greats, and we have people that like to compare the current athletes in the NBA to the all-time greats. I'll give you another example of Russell Westbrook. Everyone talks about Russell Westbrook as being this great athlete. He gets a lot of triple-doubles. He's becoming the star of the NBA these days because of how many points he gets. Now, some people out there call him a stat padder, meaning he just goes out there to get his points so he can get his acknowledgement. If you look at the situation with the Oklahoma City Thunder and how Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, the reason why I say that would be a good move for Kevin Durant is because I don't think Russell Westbrook is a teammate that you would want to win championships. I'm not saying he would never win a championship, except for the fact that he puts himself in situations where he's the one doing all the work, but he's not making his teammates better in the process. And that's just a reality of someone who's getting that many triple-doubles. I find it interesting that nobody wants to say that because you're trying to congratulate the person who's getting all those points. But at the end of the day, to NBA athletes or most athletes in any sport, it is about championships. It is about your career as a whole. It's not just about the points in that one particular game. And I think it's a message really appreciated, especially by someone like Steve Kerr, who could have put Klay Thompson in that fourth quarter, but decided not to. Very interesting that he did that. But I'm not that surprised. Because, of course, if you know about Steve Kerr, he had a clutch perimeter shot. And not only that, he's won a lot of championships, whether it was with the Bulls or the Spurs and as a coach with the Warriors. He's a great coach and a great NBA baller. He knows the game. So the whole idea of us talking about who's the all-time great, you better believe that Steve Kerr playing with Michael Jordan really helped his career. You can go beyond even being coached by Phil Jackson. If you were on a team with Michael Jordan, you probably learned a lot about the game. Whether you were friends with him or not, you learned about the game based on how he was leading the team and the way he played the game. Now, a lot of us saw Michael Jordan play, so we have that advantage of knowing how he was as an athlete. Not just from YouTube, by the way, because some people watch highlights on YouTube or you start talking about Michael Jordan because you heard something said on TV. These are the kind of things that confuse people when they try to compare these athletes because some people, again, want to rewrite history. If we're going to compare the all-time greats, we have to actually be real about it and say, you know what? He won 6 championships. He's a leader. He has the character of a champion. He is a champion. He knew how to motivate his teammates because that's exactly who Mike was. You know, the reality is they were saying want to be like Mike because Jordan's a winner. That's why. And again, it's no offense to LeBron James, but if we're going to have an honest conversation about Michael Jordan, no, you cannot compare LeBron James to him. And even when some people are saying these things about Russell Westbrook, trying to say that he's an all-time great, I have to say, if you're the person scoring half the points for your team, or you're getting that many triple-doubles, we have to look at what your teammates are doing or not doing. And we have to ask the question, what happens in the playoffs? When the games really matter. The regular season is important, but the playoffs are also very important because this is what gets you a championship, if you can win those series. So if you score all those points and you don't win a championship, what did it all mean? One individual's achievement. And I'm saying, even though Michael Jordan supports Russell Westbrook, I see it out there. I read some things out there and people are saying that Russell Westbrook scoring all these triple-doubles, Michael Jordan is saying great things about Russell Westbrook. He can do that. He won the championships. He was in the NBA. But if we're going to be real about who is the all-time great, it's not the person just padding stats and not winning championships. And if you were in the finals and your record is not exactly the best, then you can't be called the best. Even though you're skilled as an athlete. This happens in all sports. You find people in the media, what happens is that if they were in the NBA or any other league, and then they have an opportunity to talk about these athletes, most of the time, the athletes who never won a championship, they're really angry and they have a lot of animosity towards these athletes in various ways. No offense to Charles Barkley, but recently when you called out the Warriors, it was just reminding me every time that you have something really harsh to say about athletes in the NBA, it seems like it could be similar to you not really achieving what you wanted to when you were in the NBA. That's what it reminds me of. You see Shaquille O'Neal, he is an all-time great Hall of Famer. I'm not saying Charles Barkley doesn't deserve the credit that he gets as a former NBA baller. He was a very good NBA baller. No question about it. He was a leader for the Phoenix Suns, former Philadelphia 76er. But he did not win a championship. And it does matter. Because then you're out there questioning other athletes out there. And you say some really harsh things about them sometimes. But you yourself never won. I mean, let's just give the example. How would you say anything about Steph Curry, even Klay Thompson, but they achieved what they wanted to as an NBA baller? They won a championship. And they want more championships. That's what it's about. How can you say anything about Kevin Durant when you look at LeBron James and you make excuses for him when he goes from one team to another to win championships and then goes back to his home team and then says that he's helping his team? You know, the whole idea that he went to Miami to quote-unquote learn how to win championships is ridiculous. He wanted to win championships for himself. Could you imagine that someone says they go to another team to what? Learn how to win championships so you can bring back to your home team that skill of knowing how to win a championship to help them? I mean, really. There are franchise athletes, when they win championships with one team, that's a Michael Jordan. Again, the whole idea that he went to the Washington Wizards to win anything would be ridiculous. He's a Chicago Bull. The name Michael Jordan is about the city of Chicago and the Chicago Bulls. That's who Jordan is. And when you say Jumpman, it's a symbol of his achievement. Because the NBA was really built on the back of Michael Jordan. And someone like LeBron James, with all his success, you have to give credit where it's due. And that's to Michael Jordan for building that. He built a foundation for these athletes these days to succeed the way they are with their brands. That's who Michael Jordan is. And some people out there say, oh, you don't know if Michael Jordan helped people and this and that. You don't know everything Michael Jordan does. He's not in the media in that way. Not a lot. And I'm saying this based on someone who actually watched Michael Jordan play, who wasn't even in Chicago when I was watching those games. Because the Bulls were so popular back then that outside the Chicago market, you could watch those games. And this was before having 1,000 channels on the TV. And the NBA wanted people to see it. And I have to say, this goes beyond even playoff games. The Bulls were a very good team back then. That's real talk about basketball. If you want to talk about Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, and the things that they're saying these days, or the idea that Reggie Miller doesn't like the idea that people are saying Steph Curry's better than him, I'm going to talk about a lot of things on this channel. But the one thing I'm going to do when I talk basketball or any sport on this channel, just like all my other videos, it's real talk. And people want to celebrate athletes based on their feelings, because that's what it is. You want to say LeBron James is the all-time great. Prove it. Prove in what way did he lead his team to championships like Michael Jordan? You couldn't. He doesn't want the ball at the end of the game. Why not? Because if you saw Jordan, he wanted the ball. He also knew how to dish the ball out to some of the perimeter shooters, including a Steve Kerr, who had a great perimeter shot, by the way. It is no coincidence that he is the coach for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who have great perimeter shots, two of the best perimeter shooters in the game today, possibly all time, the way they shoot the ball. My gosh, that cannot be argued. And that it is for the Cavalier fans, because there's a lot of Cleveland Cavalier fans. You guys get really harsh when you talk basketball. I read some of the stuff you guys say on Twitter. You know, trashing Steph Curry's wife isn't exactly a great argument to say that your team is the best. It really isn't. You disrespecting somebody's wife is not impressive at all. If you want to talk basketball, talk basketball. When you guys talk about LeBron James and try to compare him to Michael Jordan, right away you start talking about what? Arguments with referees? It's not about that. Again, we didn't see Jordan going to the media complaining about athletes or things that were said in the game, because that stays in the game. Again, no offense to LeBron, but if we're making the comparisons, we have to talk reality about what goes on in the NBA and who you are as an athlete. Again, I said you're a great athlete. I don't know you personally, obviously, but you seem like a good guy, and you do a lot of good things for people, because that's impressive to me. That makes what someone's character is about. But if we're talking about the NBA, and we're just talking about the athletes in the NBA, and especially how your fans continuously like to say that you're the best of all time and all that kind of stuff, then we have to start talking about who actually is the best. And that is Michael Jordan. There's no argument there. And there's a reason why if the Cavaliers even go against the Warriors again in the finals, you better believe that Steve Kerr is going to be ready this time, because this person has won championships. And it did help him to play with Michael Jordan and be coached by Phil Jackson. He learned a lot. It wasn't an accident. People say, oh, Steph Curry, he's shooting a great perimeter shot, and Klay Thompson, all this kind of stuff. How did the Warriors get this good? And well, they're trying to say it's the roster and everything. The Warriors are a very good team. But they're not the Showtime Lakers. They're not built that way. But they're very good. And they remind me of the Showtime Lakers because of the way they play the game. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is. It's a lot of fun to watch the Warriors. Unless you're on Twitter trying to hate Ayesha Curry. I mean, really? Sometimes NBA fans, sports fans in particular, you try to distract from the actual conversation about what people are talking about. People yelled at LeBron James. People yell at Dwight Howard. Both of them act like it's the first time they got yelled at in the game. Like, I can't believe I got yelled at. Really, you can't believe? Sometimes you do stuff in the game that people want to yell at you about. Including when LeBron James slammed Draymond Green. Stuck his foot between his leg, or behind his leg, and threw him down. Now, I like Draymond Green. I really do. I think he's like a Dennis Rodman in the making. But still, LeBron asked to be hit. That's what he asked for. Because when you do that to someone, what do you think's going to happen? And then after the game, you're complaining to the media. And all the media out there want to forget about that. And then you're trying to talk about LeBron James being the greatest player of all time. Don't you think a lot of people out there who are Michael Jordan fans, including myself, Chicago Bull fan and Michael Jordan fan, because if you root for the Bulls back in the day, yes, I root for the Warriors, but that's because Steve Kerr's a former Bull. And I grew up watching Steve Kerr, and I was rooting for Steve Kerr when he was on the Bulls. Great perimeter shooter. He was fantastic. So when I look at the Bulls, I root for Jordan. I saw Steve Kerr. Then you see this team with the Warriors, and you're like, wow, Steve Kerr is a really good coach. It's not just about the players. It's about leadership. The Warriors aren't perfect. Look what happened last season. Stuff happens. But if you look at Steve Kerr, there's a reason why he's such a great coach. And it is because his experience with the Bulls. And then he went on to play for the Spurs. But really, the Bulls, that's where he was learning as an athlete. And he learned a lot from Jordan and Phil Jackson. So if you want to talk about who's the best in the game, no, it does not make any sense after we see all that stuff when LeBron James is complaining to the media. And then we're talking about who's the all-time great. How is anyone going to ignore what we actually see in the game? And then after that, he's complaining to the media about someone on the other team. And then you talk about his finals record because that all happened in the NBA Finals. You can't ignore all of that. I mean, that's reality. And some people in the media, you expect people just to ignore that? You can't do that. Because if you're talking about someone's career, you have to talk about everything that they're doing in the game And even after the game, went about the game. I mean, that's what you have to do. This is the NBA. So if LeBron James is a complainer, which he is, there's no question about it. Even when he's in the game, on every other play, he's complaining to the refs. When he faces another team that actually played defense against him. I want to say this. If people think that we're just trashing LeBron by critiquing his career or saying something about him, it's not about that. Because there's no perfect athlete. But if you're trying to compare him to Jordan, then you stop comparing him because LeBron wasn't winning. And then you go back after he wins a championship and start comparing him again? No, you cannot do that fairly unless you acknowledge that Michael Jordan is the best of all time in the NBA. That's what I'm saying. There's other people that are going to name other athletes out there. You can go ahead and do that. I'm saying that Michael Jordan is the best NBA baller of all time. And I think I have a lot of facts to base that opinion on. But if you want to talk about LeBron James, compare his dribbling skills to Jordan. Go ahead and compare them. You're going to see that Michael Jordan has the better dribbling skills. You're going to see that Michael Jordan has the better fadeaway jumper. You're going to see that Michael Jordan had the better handling skills, especially at clutch moments in the game. That's important. It's a very interesting conversation if you really want to be honest about it. You know, the NBA and people who follow the NBA, the fans, and the media, you guys don't always like to have real conversations about who these athletes really are compared to the all-time greats. Although you see someone wearing the number 23 and then start talking about Jordan and you want to say that he's like Michael Jordan. Awfully interesting. You know, the whole idea of comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan got really messed up when you guys started disregarding Kobe Bryant. That was completely crazy to me. Because Kobe Bryant was the closest person that can actually emulate Jordan in a game. The closest. I didn't say Kobe Bryant was Michael Jordan. He's the closest, though. My gosh, if you look at the way Kobe Bryant played the game, someone that really studied Michael Jordan. And I think even Kobe Bryant himself said that he studied Michael Jordan. So you have to understand the game in that way to realize who are the all-time greats, what are the reasons why they're great, and what separates them from the other guys in the NBA. From previous generations to even this generation of NBA bowlers. And that's just real talk about Michael Jordan. So I like to know what you guys think. I'm sure the LeBron James fans are going to be really annoyed about this. If you have an opinion, post your comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.